What about UFOs?
Well, we're learning more each and every day. You're getting the titrated leaking on the UFOs. Like, it's now open source information that the CIA has a program around craft recovery. It's not a question anymore. And so that's probably where I would start: the craft recovery and the biologics that have been taken from those crafts.
Are people going to be ready for that?
I think you got to let it out there. You don't inure to the benefit of the citizenry by keeping those kind of secrets from them.
And what have you seen proof of?
Well, there's some things I've seen proof of that I can't discuss, and I've urged the White House to disclose these things. You know, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars researching something, and then you have one group telling us they don't exist, and I have the best pilots in the world telling me, Tim, this thing was 14 feet from my canopy, and he did this, and I've seen things that I wish the public could see.
And I've seen some of the videos of the recent shoot down, and I saw no reason that couldn't have been released as long as they mask some data. The American people deserve to see that imagery in full motion video.
The image was of something that I am not able to attach to any human capability, either from the United States or from any of our adversaries. And I'm somewhat informed on the matter, having served on the Armed Services Committee for 7 years, having served on the committee that oversees DARPA and advanced technologies for several years. And they saw a sequence of 4 craft in a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I alone have observed in the United States Congress. One of the pilots goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb, again, like I said, not of any human capability that I'm aware of. And when he approached, he said that his radar went down, he said that his FLIR system malfunctioned, and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses.
Are you aware of any individuals that are participating in reverse engineering programs for non-terrestrial craft?
Personally, yes. Mm-hmm.
You know any that would be willing to testify if there were protections for them?
Certainly closed door and assurances that breaking their NDA, they're not going to get administratively punished for so. Yeah.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft, yes or no?
Yes.
For the Admiral this morning first, former DOD official Chris Mellon reached out to you about satellite imagery from 2017 that depicts a UAP. Can you describe what was depicted in the satellite image?
The term that the analysts used, they called it the button. It was a disc-shaped object.
In your book, you mentioned government employees who've been injured by UAPs, placed on leave, and receiving government compensation for their injuries. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How can the government deny we have recovered craft if they're paying people because they've been injured by recovered craft?
Ma'am, that's a great question. That's why I think we're here again, because I've seen the documentation by the U.S. government for several of these individuals who sustained injuries as a result of a UAP incident.
It's a crazy idea, right? The hypocrisy and the logic.
Are you familiar with my friend David Grush?
Absolutely, sir. I had the privilege and honor of working with him myself several years ago at U.S. Space Force.
Last year, as you know, he testified that the U.S. has run a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Are there UAP programs operating without proper congressional oversight?
100%.
Mr. Elizondo, does any branch of the United States government or defense contractors possess technology?
Sir, there's documentation that I believe was submitted for the record that was approved for release by the U.S. Pentagon, by the Department of Defense Office of Pre-Publication Security Review, and it states one of the reasons why my predecessor program, OSAP, was trying to collect material of unknown origin.
Was it successfully collected?
It was not. What happened is that there was an aerospace contract company that requested to divest itself of the material that was collected in the 1950s. Right. Unfortunately, that didn't actually occur.
So let's dive into that. That's the Bigelow Aerospace, correct? So
yes, sir.
There was a journalist, Christopher Sharp, who said that there was a transfer between Lockheed Martin, Bigelow Aerospace, and the CIA allegedly blocked this. Can you describe that?
What I can say is that it was blocked. Why it was blocked, I can only surmise. I was part of some conversations later on with some of those contract personnel where they had told all of us that is accurate. What we required was a memo from the Secretary of the Air Force in order to make that complete, and that never occurred. And so when Secretary Mattis became Secretary of Defense, I decided it would be appropriate for me to try to receive a memo from him as SecDef, as Secretary of Defense, if we could not get a memo from the Secretary of the Air Force to transfer that material.
So if that material exists today, who's in possession?
Sir, I wouldn't be able to have that conversation in an open hearing. We'd probably have to have that.
Okay, my question to you then is, if we were in a secure setting, if we were in a SCIF, would you be able to provide or get access to something, whether it's visuals or material that we could put our hands on, or biologics, that would convince me, that would show me that we have non-human origins?
Sir, that decision would not be mine. That would be to the gatekeepers still in the U.S. government.
And who would we, so if you were in our shoes, where would you go from here? How would you get that information? How would, a lot of times we just don't know who to ask because we don't know where to go next. So if you were in our shoes, where would you go?
Well, I prefer to answer that question in a closed session. However, we established Aero for that very purpose, and unfortunately, under its previous leadership, it failed. So one would hope that they would have the authorities necessary to do that. Let's hope that this new iteration of leadership will be successful.
So you're saying you know for a fact there are aliens?
Yes, 100%.
There are alien craft?
100%.
Have you been involved in the recovery of those alien craft?
Well, Ross, yes, I have.
And they had these little film canisters of microfiche film. So I took the first one out and I put it into this old-timey microfiche machine and started cranking it and looking at it. It was all these documents. And I said, I don't know how long they're going to allow me to stay in here. And so I said, if I start reading each one of these documents as a lawyer, it's going to take forever. So I sort of cranked through them to see if there were any photographs anywhere. Nothing was there in the first canister. And so I folded it all up and put it back in. And I opened up a second canister, went through it, and they had a lot of documents again. I could see all the official stamps on them and the top secret designations, et cetera. And then I got to the third canister, I think it was, and partway in, there it was. Here was this series of photographs, black and white photographs of a crashed flying saucer. There wasn't any doubt about what it was. It was a winter scene. There was snow on the ground, and the saucer, it was a classic large disc saucer, about 40, 50 feet across, with a big dome on the top of it. And it had hit into this snow-covered field, and it plowed this big ditch all the way across the field, like the earth was all turned up, and it was stuck into the side of this big snow-covered embankment, stuck in there like at a 45-degree angle, just stuck in the side of the hill. And I could see all around it, there were these Air Force personnel. They were in winter jackets, with the big fur around the hood, and they were taking photographs of it. And I actually saw one of the guys in one of the photos. There were like three of them that I saw the photos, and they had one of these old-timey cameras, a movie camera, like with the two big round canisters on the top of them. So it must have been like in like the late 40s or early 50s or something, I figured. And so that and then all of a sudden I realized that in one of the photos I could see around the bottom of the dome of the crash saucer that was stuck in the embankment, these symbols. And I looked at them and I said, wow, look at there's nothing like anything I've ever seen. They're not Russian, they're not Chinese, they're not, hieroglyphics. They're totally unique. So I said, okay, I'm going to trace these because I want to make sure they're absolutely identical to what is there and that they're in the exact sequence that they're in.
Sorry, did Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick lie when he made the assertion that there was no direct first-hand witness evidence provided to Arrow of a crash retrieval?
I provided him under oath the exact same information that I've given to you. That, from a court of law, as a 50-year practicing attorney from Harvard Law School, I can tell you that is direct admissible firsthand testimony about the fact that there is direct visual photographic evidence of a crash retrieval program directly being undertaken by government officials. And he knows that it existed. Yeah.
What is your position about the truthfulness of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick in the evidence he gave last week to Congress?
I think that it was a transparent, willful, conscious lie.
You're accusing an officer of the government. You're accusing somebody who's been statutorily tasked by Congress to prepare a report. You're saying that that particular official, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, lied categorically to the Congress.
Yes, he did.
Wow. I mean, that's a very, very grave allegation. You'd be prepared to testify about that to Congress and to a court?
Oh, absolutely.
I know that you've covered other accounts of UFOs moving hundreds of miles an hour underwater, joining with Congressman Burchett's claims. What do you make of underwater UFOs?
I've had the privilege of speaking directly with submariners, particularly, who have been witness to measurements of objects underwater using the sophisticated tracking technology that both the US Navy and my Navy in Australia use. And there are objects that have been recorded unbelievably moving close to the speed of sound in air underwater. So we're talking there about hundreds of kilometres an hour, hundreds of miles an hour. And there's no explanation for it. What we do know is that it is now officially admitted that the mystery of these objects is real. The United States has come a long way in the last 5 to 7 years. It now admits officially through the Director of National Intelligence that, in fact, there is a mystery, a genuine mystery there that requires investigation. And so now under the new administration, under President Trump, there's a big push on privately behind the scenes to get the claims of people like Jake Barber, the guy that I interviewed on News Nation a few weeks ago, who exclusively revealed his knowledge, direct first-hand knowledge of the existence of a retrieval program, an underground retrieval program involving alleged alien technology. Incredible allegations, I know. But what's interesting is there is now engagement at the top levels of the Trump administration and also in the Congress. People want to hear more and they're asking questions. As you know, I did an interview with Don Trump Jr. a few weeks ago, and he's obviously very engaged with the subject. I've had more conversations with people in the Trump administration since, and I've had reach outs from people in defense and the intelligence community who frankly tell me that they think it's time the American public and indeed the world was told what the US really does know about UAPs. They don't think there's any good reason to keep on hiding what they tell me is the case, which is that humanity has long been engaging with an advanced non-human intelligence, and we have been recovering their technology. There are genuinely national security imperatives. I can understand why the Defense Department might want to protect weapons technology or propulsion systems or energy systems. But I think at the very least, President Trump could come out and he could say, yes, we are aware of a non-human intelligence and advanced technology, but we're not going to reveal those secrets to the Russians or the Chinese, potential adversaries. But we do think you, the public, should know that we are on top of this. We're restoring it to congressional oversight because it's been hidden improperly from the Congress and indeed from previous presidents. And so it would be a really big move, I think, by the current president to make that decision and be more open and honest with the American public.
Yeah.